All right. So let's go ahead and jump into the presentation itself, getting visitors to take action. So first of all, I'd love to know where everybody's joining us from. So in the comments there, if you just want to punch in, what city you're joining us from and what is your role, if you're a marketer, sales, business owner, galactic emperor of the galaxy, whatever it is. So we got some people, looks like we got Paul joining us here from Minneapolis, a marketer. We got Sarah here, communications, Alexandria. Excellent. Looks like we got a few people from all over the place, which I'm very happy to see all over Minnesota, it looks like. Awesome. Some business owners, we got some marketers, we got some salespeople, a few designers. Denise over in Ashby, hopefully everything's all good over there after the recent storm here. And then we got Michael from our team joining us all the way from Antigua, Guatemala, who's down there living with his family for a little bit. So adding that international aspect. So let's jump on next. So before we get into how do we optimize conversion rate optimization, we want to just talk about what it is. So in a nutshell, if you're getting 1,000 visitors to your website, how many of them become clients? So if it's 22% would be your conversion rate. Typical industry standards is anywhere from 0.5% to upwards of 8% is really solid conversion rate. So depending on your industry, that's kind of a good area to expect to be within. And why is conversion rate so important? For one, being able to optimize your conversion rate is typically less expensive and more effective than going out there and getting a bigger audience, getting more audience. Certainly that's an important aspect. You have to have an audience to be able to convert them into clients. But once you do start getting that traffic coming through, optimizing that traffic can a lot of times be a lot more cost effective. It also gives you better predictability because if you get 1,000 hits, that 2% are going to become clients, you have a pretty good idea on what your sales numbers are going to be, what your leads are going to be. If you happen to have a big event and you get 5 times as much traffic, you'll know that it should scale approximately for that. So it gives you better predictability. And then the most obvious is the better you can optimize your traffic, the more revenue, the better you can do in towards arriving at your goals. So what does the typical sales cycle look like? This is a pretty standard sales cycle, look a little bit different for different people, but first, getting the awareness out there, making sure people are aware of the service product that you offer. And second is acquiring those visitors as leads and engaging them, starting to educate them about what your product or service provides, about your team, about yourself. And then the third step, the critical one, is how do you get them to become, that valuable client, and how do you activate them to, engage more with you and use your product on an ongoing basis. And then the fourth one, also very important, retention, the ability to create those advocates out of those clients so they can help refer business to you or potentially, get more of your products or services. So one thing to keep in mind here is the website for different businesses is going to fit in differently. Brad, if you wouldn't mind queuing up that poll, but just thinking about, I'd like to see where the website fits in to the sales cycle for you. Sometimes it's just purely an awareness. Sometimes it's a matter of we want it to not only create awareness, but also get engagement. E-commerce could be all three because you're getting people to your site, you're engaging them, maybe getting them in newsletters, you're selling them that product right there. So the full cycle is through there. For us, for CYBErsprout, I would say awareness and engagement are the two that we focus on. Because once we start that conversation, we typically take that offline. All right. So it looks like primarily most people are either using it for all steps, and you guys should be able to see the poll results as well to kind of get an idea. Most people are using it for awareness, engagement, or all steps, but nobody's using it purely as a landing page conversion. I'm just gonna grab a quick drink here. My CYBErsprout mug. Shameless plug. All right. So awareness, the first step in that lead cycle, it really boils down to four main categories. And you'll see this if you log into your Google Analytics account and you see for your website, the four main buckets that come there. If somebody's going directly to your website, punching that in, or if they're finding you through a different search engine, primarily Google, since Google owns 90% of search traffic, or if it's a social media channel, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And then lastly, if you're getting referrals from other websites. And one thing I wanted to mention in particular on the awareness one is in regards to search engine traffic. And I would always encourage our customers to focus on what we call long tail keywords, which are more specific. So this first one on here, furniture for sale, it's pretty short. It's a little bit more generic. Those ones have a lot of allure because you can see the search traffic is quite a bit higher for that. The problem with those ones is they're a lot more difficult for your website to rank and show up high in Google search results for that. And the user intent is more generic. We don't know what kind of furniture they're looking for sale, if they're looking for deals, if they're looking for local, versus I would encourage you to look further down. Antique bedroom furniture is a little more specific, but even better is antique white bedroom furniture. We know exactly what that user's looking for. You can kind of see on the right there that KD stands for keyword difficulty, is how hard it is to get traffic from that keyword phrase. So you can see the bottom one is much easier to get traffic for than the top one. The top one you might get very little, if not any. The bottom one's much easier to rank for, and you know what that person is looking for in particular. And for that reason, you'll see this is the best landing pages in the world converted about 11.5%. That's just phenomenal. That's an extremely high conversion rate. But you can see the power of long tail keywords because they actually convert at about 1/3 of traffic going there because you know exactly what that user's trying to accomplish. So if you can try and help them complete what they're trying to do, your odds of getting a conversion are quite a bit higher. So it's less competition, it's easier to know the intent, and the odds of their conversion rate being higher are going to be there as well. So we've gotten the traffic to the site. We're starting to turn these visitors now into potential leads, and they become a lead once we kind of are able to, associate an email address with them, start to learn a name. They give us something of information, so they sign up for newsletter, something along those lines. And what we're really trying to do then is trying to lead them along this lines of engagement and building trust with those visitors. So when the visitor becomes a lead, this is just a number of different ways that they can potentially become a lead. The first one may be a bit of a surprise because you'd think if they made a purchase that they've now converted to becoming a client. But if they just made a small one-off purchase that doesn't really move the needle for your business or organization, they've really given you just enough information, they've wanted to try your product, try to capture an email, something along those lines to where you can continue to engage them to help them become a lifetime client, a repeat customer that's going to become a lot more valuable to your business or organization. Softer leads could be something like subscribing to a newsletter, following you on social media, maybe something exactly like what we're doing today with the webinar. If you have an event and you have people that are registering for your event, if you have some kind of software along those lines and they sign up for a trial period, they want to take a look at it, or they're sending you a message through your Facebook, through your website, requesting a quote, and they're taking that conversation now offline or through email, away from the website. But I want you to, however they start this journey, however they become a lead, try to think about the path to 8 touches. This is kind of an old adage that subconsciously visitors start to trust your brand, trust you after interacting with you around 8 times. It's going to be different for every industry, for every business, but try to create these micro engagements to start to build that trust. So if somebody comes to your, like I kind of laid out a path of what it may look like. Somebody comes to your website, they subscribe to your newsletter, and then all of a sudden they get their first newsletter, maybe a few weeks, a month later, they decide to read a few blog posts, they're intrigued, so they decide to schedule a demo of your product. After that demo, they sign up for a trial period. While they're in that trial period, they may follow you on social media to get some extra tips on how to maximize the platform or read some how-to articles in your knowledge base. And then before deciding to convert and become that client, they read reviews from other clients and see what others have to say about your business. And this is really not a linear path like what it used to be in traditional sales cycles. With online, this is going to look very different for every visitor. So what you're really just trying to do is deepen your relationship and keep them engaged and continuing to show them your value, continuing to educate those visitors, and help them along the path to becoming a client. And social proof is a big aspect of this. And I think Andy here says it best, that when you say it's marketing versus when your customer says it's social proof. It's just taken with a much heavier weight when it's said by one of your customers versus a marketer. And there's different ways to use this social proof here. And I am going to quickly share, actually, Brad, if you wouldn't mind sharing the article from Michael. Michael recently wrote an article on this, so if you want to dig a little bit deeper on this, but here are the different types of social proof. And I always like to say that it's almost impossible to have too much social proof on your website. So I think it should be integrated into your homepage, your product pages, your key conversion pages, contacts, stuff like that. And they can come from different sources. Can come from your customers, your clients. Those would be in the form of like reviews, testimonials. Could come from somebody who has a degree or a deep background on a specific topic, and they're a subject matter expert that can provide an expert angle on it. Could be somebody who is well known, that's got that celebrity status. Doesn't have to be necessarily like an A-list celebrity. It's not nationwide. Could just be regionally, could be locally, that people recognize as a leader within a community. Then also looking at crowds, large numbers, what they call herd mentality. So, if you have, for example, a newsletter and you say, hey, look, join 20,000 other marketing professionals that get our monthly marketing tips. That's using herd mentality to get others in there. Friends, social media has no doubt played a huge aspect in this. The ability for people to go in there and see that one of their friends that they know likes you on Facebook through another social media platform can create that little bit of extra assurance as well. And then the last one being certifications or any awards or associations that you're a part of to help create that extra level of authority within your topic, your industry. So now the key step within this, and the reason that we're here today is to talk about, now we've gotten the awareness, we've gotten them to the point where we've gotten them as a lead and we're starting to engage them. Now how do we get them to take that final step? And one reason I did want to talk a little bit more about engagement is now we've kind of built up that trust to where we can get them to take that final action here. So how do we improve conversion? For one, reduce clutter. You've seen this transformation on website design over the last few decades, where it used to be like classified ads. There's just tons of stuff all over. It's a lot cleaner, a lot more focused now in design. You're focusing on this primary action. So a few specific ways to do that is, one, avoid decision fatigue. And decision fatigue is when somebody goes there and they see 10 different options, 15 different options, and it feels like homework for them to try and figure out which one they're supposed to pick. Versus like this one here, this is from Home Care Solutions. You go there, you have to decide, are you looking for care or are you trying to provide care? It's a very easy way to start them down two separate paths, and then you can have the messaging be very specific to those audience from there. And you'll find that people have a hard time making decisions once you get beyond 4 or 5 decisions. Consider removing your header pages on your headers, I should say, on your conversion pages. This could be like your shopping cart for e-commerce. It could be your landing page where you have a form where you want people to fill it out to request a quote, potentially become a lead. But headers a lot of times become a distraction when somebody gets to the point where they're going to convert and they're starting to look at making that final step to become a client, and they're just kind of looking for distractions to get away from there. So just kind of remove those extra distractions on those key pages. You can certainly have things like your footer in there if they need to go back, or use their back button in their browser. Along those same lines in terms of options, consider minimizing the number of navigation items you have there. So this website, for example, has a lot of projects. They have specs for different products. There's a whole bunch of people on the team. There's all kinds of information on this company and the site. But you'll notice that there's only 3 items in the navigation, because that's really, when somebody's going there to visit, the 3 that they need to kind of decide on what they're wanting to do. Are they wanting to contact us right away? They want to learn more about their solutions, or they want to learn more about the company. And an example on our own site is we don't include our blog link in the header. We include it in the footer, because we primarily want people, when they come to our site, to learn from the blog and go to the rest of the site, not the other way around. When somebody's coming to our site, we want them to look at our portfolio, we want them to learn about our team, our services, and then start that conversation with us. Whereas a blog post can feel like a distraction during that part of the process. And only ask for the bare minimum. It's very tempting, especially as like a marketing individual. You want to get data. You love to learn more about people, get as much information as possible. But keep in mind, you'll have plenty of time, plenty of chances once you've started that conversation. I know for like this particular forum, when this company gets that demo request, they immediately send back 5 or 6 other questions, because they know the odds of them answering the questions once they get the email is far, far greater than if they had it on the form itself. If it's on the form itself, it just feels like too much work to go through that step to potentially becoming a client. Be clear, not clever. I don't think there's anything wrong with being quirky and clever on your website, just not on the key parts of your messaging, your product, what are the benefits of it. So making sure to be very clear. I'm sure you can think about plenty of times you've been to a website where you just want the simple answers. You just want to understand exactly what this product does, what this company how they can help you. And you don't want to have to spend a lot of extra time to try and figure that out. You want them to just let you know exactly how they can help you. So be very clear in your messaging. So like for this one, it's a Craigslist posting software, but you can see the primary benefit, and you're speaking to that benefit, is just get your product in front of 60 million users. That's something that people can easily understand the benefit right away and how that can benefit them. Lay out steps as well to become a client. Sometimes it's not as easy as just making a simple purchase on a site. So what do those steps look like for becoming a client? And this is something that we even do within our own company, that a lot of times we tell people, hey, learn about us through the website. We'll start that discussion, then we'll give them a proposal, have a final discussion, and then we'll sign a partnership agreement. Just understanding those steps makes it much easier for them to know how to go through that process. It's removing any kind of unknowns, helps remove any kind of anxiety from becoming a client. Consider handling objections, and I think this is a really important one, is to think down and try to get into your visitors' shoes. Try to think about what are they thinking about, what are their big concerns when they're looking at your website, what may be difficult to understand, and use social proof to address some of those concerns if possible. I mean, you can certainly address them through FAQs, other information, but even better is when you can address objections through social proof, because then they can see other people, hey, they had the same concerns that, like for example, this one, when they're using a website, that they thought it was going to be really tough to manage, it was going to become even more expensive when they had to manage it. And they were very happy and very surprised at how easy it was for them to manage it and how much it saved them in the long run. So having that right there next to that conversion form can help give people that little bit extra reassurance before they take that next step. And FAQs certainly, play a big role in this as well. And FAQs, the big thing for that is getting your sales team, your marketing team involved in that. Because when you're having these conversations with clients, they're always asking these questions. Write these questions down. We always do this to our own team for other projects we work on. It's not only a great way to handle the objections and potential confusion and unknowns for those clients, but it also helps you even with acquiring traffic, because Google will pay attention to that and see, oh, they're frequently adding new content, and it gives you more search targets for Google and more content for them to be able to read and analyze. So FAQs can be a very powerful way to keep your website fresh, keep it user-friendly for prospective clients, and help drive additional traffic. Now, a lot of times when people are at our site, it just may not be the right time. It depends on what the product is. If it's a construction company, for example, there's only very rarely that people are going to go out and build a house. So they may be looking very early on, maybe even years out before they're going to start to build that house. So consider that you don't need to sell to them right now. You just need to start creating that relationship and starting to show them the value that you can provide and helping them maybe along the journey to, here's the other steps and other things that you should consider. We're going to help you in this area, but here's other things that you should consider. Maybe it's a checklist, trying to provide that value for them, but staying sticky with them, keeping that relationship. So it could be in the form of a newsletter. Newsletters are a great way to keep up communication with clients. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that. For one, adding the newsletter, and I'm sure a number of you saw this like on our own forum, is when you sign up to a contact form, you have the ability to opt into our newsletter at the same time. And I always figure if somebody's willing to take that extra effort to go through and submit a form on your website, there's a good chance they're also going to be interested in learning from your newsletter. So if it's just as simple as clicking a button and they're already putting their name and email in there, that's great. And the best thing about this is, even though they just became a lead, getting them on the newsletter can help on those path to 8 touches to, again, continuing to help educate prospective clients and deepening the relationship with them. And after they've submitted that form to become a lead, encourage them to, again, take another step to connect with you. So you'll see this on our, again, on our own forum, that we're really happy that when people submit it, hey, we'll reach out to you shortly, but we give them some intrigue on how to connect with us on Facebook. And I don't just put connect with us on Facebook. Sometimes that's a little generic. I try to give them something a little bit more unusual. And you can see there we have the video of our office Olympics, and people are very intrigued by that. And I'll actually share that video with you guys at the end, or you got it there. So if anybody wants to check that out. It's pretty funny. We raced office chairs through our office around cones. So I won't spoil the ending or who wins, but it's more intriguing than just saying connect with us on Facebook. So try to think about what's going to spark their interest. If you are dealing with e-commerce or any kind of quoting system, cart abandonment is a very powerful feature, something that's becoming almost mandatory if you're going to be running e-commerce. And what that is, and we've all done this where we've gone to buy an item online, we get towards the checkout and we're like, not sure if I really want to buy this, do I really want to spend the money, is this the right product? You start to have some of those objections, bubble up to the top, and you're like, maybe I'll just do it later, so you bail. Well, what cart abandonment does is it captures that email address and it'll send them an automated email and just say, hey, did you forget to check out? If you had any problems with it, here's our customer service number, our email. We'd be happy to help you out with that. And that happens 30 minutes after. You can see that where the trigger is in that right column. Then 1 day later, it'll send out another one just saying, hey, you're still deciding on this. Is there anything that we can do to answer any questions for you on this product? And then 3 days later, maybe you give them like a deal or a discount that's like 10% off, something like that. It just nudges them over the edge. And this simple tactic can yield phenomenal results. We have this implemented on a lot of our clients' e-commerce sites, and you can see it can make a world of a difference in terms of being able to convert a lot of lost orders into clients. So I would highly encourage you, if you are running e-commerce, to consider cart abandonment. It can be a game changer. And for those ones that are already, they did make that first purchase, but they haven't started to become repeat clients and become that long-term customer, this is where loyalty programs can come in handy. So if you're e-commerce, there's a number of different options to give people rewards for making more purchases, give them special deals. For us, it's a little bit different, and this, maybe I'll throw out one of our own examples for those of you who aren't doing e-commerce. We decided when we raised our pricing a year ago, anybody who was already a current client was going to stay at the same pricing and got grandfathered in as a thank you for being a client of ours for the number of years, and we really appreciate that. So it's another way to show loyalty, to those ones who have, taken that first step to becoming a client. And the last little trick here, if you will, is getting them to take the first step. You want them to be the one to take that first step to reaching out. Definitely helps in terms of conversion rate versus, for example, cold calling or cold emailing, and getting them to take that first step is very important. And one thing on that is they call it Zeigarnik effect, and my pronunciation of that's probably terrible, but essentially what it is when somebody starts the first step of the process to becoming a client, mentally we're wired to where we want to complete tasks. So we want to complete that process. So what I mean by that, like this form here, when they fill out those field examples, it'll automatically, once they fill them out, go to the next page in that form and ask them just a little bit more information, and then finally it'll get them to convert on the last one. Now they probably in the back of their mind knew that it was going to lead towards a conversion, but because they've already taken those first few steps, their odds of completing it is significantly higher. And I've reviewed the data on our own clients, and I've seen that if you can get somebody to take that first step, your odds of getting them to convert is typically around 30 to 40%. So just getting them to take that first step, and it doesn't necessarily have to use this technique for getting them to make the sale. Could be just to get them to sign up for the newsletter, for example. We used this on one client site where we said, hey, find or see the best deals and specials as just a button in the footer, and people are always intrigued by that. When they click that, it actually creates a small pop-up there and just fill out their name and email. And we've seen about 40% of the people that click on that button will follow through and just put in their email and name to, become a lead and hopefully become a potential client. FOMO, or fear of missing out, this classic strategy, but can be implemented in different ways on a website. From this own webinar, we had this. You can see we had a countdown to when the webinar is going to start, when we were going to have that closeoff date. FOMO can be a very powerful way to just get them to take that first step on that path to converting into a client. And I wanted to, so that's the main meat of the conversion rate optimization. So now we've got them as a client, how do we continue to engage them? And really, a lot of those same things that we are using when they become a lead can be used, whether newsletter, webinars. For example, today, I was looking at all the people that signed up here today, and I would say about half the people that signed up here today and that are participating are already CYBERsprout clients, which I love because, it allows us to continue to help share additional tips, techniques, strategies with our current clients, because I want to see them to continue to have success. So, webinars are fantastic for not only client retention, but also potentially introducing ourselves to new businesses out there. And I really want to, at the end of the day, and same for your organization's businesses, create loyal customers that will become advocates, that they can see the value in your business, they can understand exactly what you provide, and they can refer you to colleagues, friends, whoever that may be. Advocates are one of the most powerful ways of growing a business. So going forward, really want to be able to monitor analytics. One of the beauties of the online world is we get a lot of extra data, so we can see what the numbers look like. Google Analytics being the primary source, and I would highly recommend setting up goals. Brad, would you mind sharing that article? So if you don't have goals already set up in your Google Analytics, I'd highly recommend getting that set up. And you can set up multiple goals. Could be ones for tracking how many newsletter conversions you get, how many people you get to make a specific purchase, how many people you get to do a quote request. There's a number of different goals that you can create, or potentially funnels, so you can start tracking that data. So that way you can see what your concurrent conversion rate is at. So then you know when you're making things, this next step, trying things out and testing, is it making a difference? And I would encourage you to look for big jumps in difference. If it goes from like a 2% to a 2.1, 2.2, or 1.9, odds are that's just regular fluctuations. What you're really trying to do is jump from like 2% to like 3 or 4%. That's how you know when a change you've made is really taking effect and making a bigger difference. And test things out, try things out. I went to one talk on A/B testing, which is a specific technique, and on testing out 2 different things with half of your audiences to see what's going to work better. And one thing that they found was that they had a duck that was next to their form, and they found when they changed the duck from one side to the other that it doubled their conversions. They honestly have no idea why, but the important thing is it doesn't matter. If that's what it took to help get more people to sign up, great. So it may be changing some colors, changing some messaging, maybe changing up a form, could be adding some FAQs there to answer a question that a lot of people had. Little things like that can make a big difference in how people are gonna behave and go down that path. And I would encourage you, this was kind of a good primer into conversion rate optimization, but there's so much more to unpack on this topic. I mentioned A/B testing. We were testing, 2 different things. Could be just 2 different colors to see which one works better, 2 different buttons. It could be a matter of switching up content, could be adding in live social proof, where I'm sure some of you have seen this, where you go to a site and it's showing you live, hey, somebody else just made this purchase, somebody else just left this review. Trying different ways of, FOMO. And then 2 resources that I'd highly recommend looking into. One is Opt-in Monster. And Brad, would you mind just punching that into the chat? Opt-in Monster. And then another one is an individual, Neil Patel. And he does a lot of great YouTube videos on both SEO and conversion rate optimization. Great resources right there to learn a lot, and they do a very good job of explaining it to where if you're a beginner or a seasoned marketer, everybody can get value from these different platforms. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for coming in today. We are about 35 minutes in, so it's about where we are hoping to end up. So, I'd love for you guys to start thinking about what kind of questions that you have. If you want to punch them into the chat. We also have another webinar that we're going to be doing next month. We're going to start trying to do these once a month. They're always going to be free. We're always going to be aiming these towards just being educational, to where you should be able to take away, some valuable information, whoever you are, whatever level you are coming into this. We also are open to suggestions. If there's a particular topic that you would love to learn about, by all means, send it our way. We'd love to take a look at that and see if it's something that we can also work into our schedule potentially. Michael's topic for next month's going to be on online reviews and beyond, building trust with that visitor. It's going to be deeper on like that social proof topic. Michael is phenomenal on this topic. It's a piece of what we talked about today. So if you want to get a little bit deeper on that and figure out how to really leverage your online reviews, your testimonials, that kind of thing, I'd highly recommend you registering and saving a spot for his session. So I'd love to jump into Q&A now, and I don't know if we have anybody that's not so far. Oh, come on, somebody's got to be a brave soul to throw out the first question. I know people have questions out there. Feel free, even if you don't feel like it's on conversion rate optimization, if it's just on general website design, development, you feel could be along the same topic. We are also offering a special right now for anybody who is in the session. If we do audits a lot of times, and audits we found are a really good way for us to show the value that we can potentially provide for your project without jumping too far in cost-wise. Normally it's $360 for a audit. We're doing a $99 special. So if that is something that you're interested in, you feel free to shoot me an email and we can talk, a little bit more on that. I see Denise, thank you for jumping in with the first question. So what do you use for analytics? Primarily, I use Google Analytics. Google Analytics is phenomenal. It provides a lot of data. There's a lot of different ones out there. My CRM that I use, I also get a lot of data from. I use EngageBay, but HubSpot, Salesforce, other CRMs out there can help a lot on giving you data for the sales cycle in particular. So that can help you to know if I get 1,000 visitors, that may turn into 50 leads. Of those 50 leads, we'll say that 20 decide to schedule a demo, and then 10 do a trial period, and then 5 become clients. So we'll know all steps along that way, what our odds are of having that person become a long-term client. And that can be really good for predictability, and knowing also if we start to see numbers slump, is it because our demo is starting to do a worse job? Maybe we need to update it and do a better job of that. It could be a matter of, our traffic has been dropped by 20-30%, so we need to do a better job of getting our traffic up. All right. Amy, so Amy's asked, what is considered a good conversion rate? Now, this is one of those things that it's going to be kind of a vague answer because it's going to be totally different for others. I've seen for things like if you're just looking to get people to start a conversation, if you're getting them to sign up for like a newsletter, more of like what I call a soft conversion, typical is around 1 to 3%. If you can get higher up, if you can get in the 5 to 8%, you're really killing it. Because you have to keep in mind, a lot of people are going to go to your site, maybe just to have a question answered, maybe already a current client, they may already be on your newsletter, they may be just learning about you for the first time. So there's going to be a lot of people on there that are not going to convert. But if you can convert at 5 to 8%, that's a really good conversion rate. All right, Mike, we got how do you track? How do you track or figure out the touches converted users have seen? So this, I would go back to the CRM. Again, in CRM for those, it's customer relationship management, sales platform. So again, Salesforce, HubSpot, I use EngageBay. And one thing that's really interesting, I know like with HubSpot or EngageBay, I can see when somebody's visited the website, joined the newsletter, maybe come back to read some articles, and then finally converted after they've gotten to the point where they've gone through that whole sales cycle. So I can see what that looks like for that individual. So you can look at it on a one-on-one basis where you're looking at one lead that went through there. A more scalable way to do it is called lead scoring. And lead scoring is where you can determine when somebody takes certain actions, when they sign up for the newsletter, when they come back to the site, when they schedule a demo, you change the score of that particular prospect so you know how close they are to potentially becoming a client. And one thing that can be very powerful about that is if somebody just signed up for my newsletter and the first thing that they see is me trying to sell them something, it's going to probably be a bit of a turnoff for them, that the first thing that they do is try to get sold instead of seeing value. Where you can, with lead scoring, I can say, these are the most engaged users, these are the ones that have been doing it for longer. I can make this offer only to that segment of the audience. And you can see this even through, like MailChimp, for example, has this built in through star ratings, 1 through 5 star ratings, and they have one by default put in there so you can see how engaged those users are. All right, Lee had another question here on any plans on a webinar demonstrating how to use an email program to follow up and engage. That's a great idea. It's one that we can definitely write down on. Automation has also become a big thing in regards to when somebody takes that step, how do you automatically start setting up the next steps for that person? And automation doesn't necessarily have to be fully automated. We use automation a lot here, but we also add a lot of personalization for individuals because every project's going to be different. But yeah, that would be a great topic on how to use an email program to follow up and further increase engagement. All right. I don't think there's any other questions that I'm seeing. Brad, are you seeing any others? Excellent. Well, I really appreciate everybody coming in here today. As our first, hopefully, of many webinars. And again, we're going to keep these free, and we just want these to be educational. So I hope to see you guys again here next month for Michael's, and then we'll do another one sometime mid-September. We haven't nailed down what topic, so again, that one's going to be open. If you have any other questions, again, you can email me at tyler@cybersprout.net. And I just want to thank everybody for coming in today, and have a great rest of your day.